The Middle East is changing, not slowly, not quietly, but in real time. A new axis is rising across West Asia. India, Israel, the United Arab Emirates. Three nations, once separated by diplomacy and distance, now moving closer than ever before. What began as a quiet convergence after the Abraham Accords is now evolving into a strategic partnership with serious military, economic, and geopolitical implications. From New Delhi's perspective, this is not merely diplomacy. It is the rise of a new regional architecture built on defense cooperation, intelligence sharing, maritime security, advanced technology, and a common opposition to terrorism and extremist networks. For decades, India maintained a careful balance in the Middle East. Israel was a crucial defense partner, while the Gulf monarchies were India's energy and economic lifeline. But the normalization of ties between Abu Dhabi and Tel Aviv in 2020 fundamentally changed the equation. The Abraham Accords did more than establish diplomatic ties between Israel and the UAE. They broke an old geopolitical barrier in the Arab world by placing strategic interests above ideological divides. Trade, intelligence coordination, cybersecurity, missile defense, logistics, and technology cooperation suddenly became more important than historical hostility. India quickly emerged as the natural third pillar in this evolving framework. All three countries increasingly view the same threats through a similar lens. India and Israel have long battled cross-border terrorism and proxy warfare. The UAE, too, has shifted sharply toward a hardline anti-extremism doctrine over the last decade. For the UAE, repeated drone and missile attacks by Iran exposed the vulnerabilities of traditional Gulf security structures. Abu Dhabi realized that relying solely on old Arab security arrangements or American protection was no longer sufficient. It needed diversified strategic partnerships.
That realization pushed the UAE closer to both India and Israel. Defense cooperation between Abu Dhabi and Tel Aviv has expanded rapidly since the Abraham Accords. Intelligence sharing, air defense systems, cyber capabilities, naval exercises, and drone warfare cooperation have transformed a once secretive relationship into an increasingly open strategic partnership. India fits seamlessly into this emerging axis. New Delhi already shares one of the world's strongest defense relationships with Israel. Israeli drones, missile systems, radars, and surveillance technologies are deeply embedded within India's military architecture. Simultaneously, India and the UAE have elevated ties into a comprehensive strategic partnership, expanding cooperation in defense manufacturing, maritime security, counterterrorism, fintech, and strategic infrastructure. The political symbolism behind this shift is impossible to ignore. Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel in 2017, openly embracing a relationship that previous Indian governments had largely handled quietly. That visit marked a turning point in India's Middle East policy.
At the same time, Modi's close personal relationship with UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has driven India-UAE ties to unprecedented levels. When MBZ visited India on January 19th along with senior members of his cabinet, the two countries signed a letter of intent aimed at establishing a strategic defense partnership agreement within 6 months. The proposed pact goes far beyond symbolic cooperation. It includes plans for defense industrial collaboration, cybersecurity coordination, intelligence sharing, interoperability between armed forces, special operations cooperation, and joint counter-terror mechanisms. This represents a dramatic shift in Gulf geopolitics. Historically, Gulf monarchies depended heavily on Pakistan for military manpower and security cooperation. Saudi Arabia and Qatar in particular maintain deep defense ties with Islamabad through long-standing mutual security arrangements. Pakistan has traditionally positioned itself as a military partner for the Islamic world. But for both India and Israel, Pakistan remains closely associated with cross-border militancy and extremist networks. That creates a striking contrast now emerging in West Asia. While Saudi Arabia continues to maintain its strategic closeness with Pakistan, the UAE increasingly appears to be moving in a different direction, toward India and Israel.
One recent development captured this shift perfectly. The UAE declined to roll over nearly $3.45 billion in Pakistani debt, forcing Islamabad to seek emergency financial support from Riyadh to repay Abu Dhabi. The message was unmistakable. The UAE's strategic priorities are changing. At the same time, the economic dimension of this triangle is also expanding. Projects linked to I-2U2 and broader India-Gulf-Mediterranean connectivity are gradually creating a new strategic geography connecting Indian ports with the UAE, Jordan, and Israel. Increasingly, the Mundra-Fujairah-Aqaba axis is being viewed as a future trade and logistics corridor linking South Asia to the Eastern Mediterranean. The UAE's recent $2.3 billion railway project in Jordan, connecting phosphate and potash mines to Aqaba port, is strategically important for India as well, given India's massive fertilizer requirements. But the larger story is not about railways or trade routes alone. The real story is the emergence of a new geopolitical coalition in West Asia. On one side stands a modernizing India-UAE-Israel triangle. Pragmatic, technologically driven, economically interconnected, and strongly aligned against terrorism, proxy warfare, and regional instability. On the other remains the more traditional Saudi-Pakistan axis, rooted in older Gulf security structures and conventional regional alignments. This does not mean the region is splitting into hostile camps, but it does indicate that two competing strategic visions are taking shape. And for the first time in decades, India is not merely observing Middle Eastern geopolitics from the sidelines. It is becoming one of the central players shaping the region's future balance of power.
If they had a nuclear weapon,
The old rules are breaking. Alliances are shifting.
Apologize again to the victims of the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
Wars are redrawing maps. Oil routes can shake economies overnight. One election in America can impact markets in Mumbai.
No tax on debt.
One move by China can alter the balance in Asia. One conflict in West Asia can hit every Indian household. This is no longer a distant story. This is our story. Your story. Because for the first time in decades, India is not watching from the sidelines. India is rising. India is negotiating. India is balancing rivals. India is building military strength. India is shaping trade routes. India is becoming central to the new global order. And yet, most global news is still told through someone else's lens. Washington's lens, Beijing's lens, London's lens. But where is India's lens? Where is the platform that explains the world from our perspective? Welcome to India's Axis, a new destination for geopolitics, strategy, and power, seen through India's eyes, from Neighborhood Watch to the biggest global stories that matter to you. Why tensions in the Taiwan Strait matter to India. How one move by China can affect India's security. What turmoil in Pakistan means for regional stability. How Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan shape India's neighborhood. Why oil choke points can hit your wallet. How wars abroad can reshape India's security. This is not noise. This is not shouting. This is not recycled headlines. This is sharp, intelligent storytelling. Daily explainers. War room analysis. Strategic conversations. Because news is everywhere. But perspective is rare. And in the age of confusion, clarity is power. Axis is for the audience that wants more than headlines. The axis of global power is shifting. India is at the center of that shift. It's time the world was explained accordingly. To understand the world through India's strategic lens. Subscribe now.